Hey, everybody, welcome. Welcome to a series I'm doing with a club at the University of Michigan called the Power Hour. It's filled with entrepreneurs, and we're doing a series of these so you can start to get to know the up-and-coming entrepreneurs that are going to change the world. Today, we're talking to Jonah Liss and Blake Mischley. Guys, it's great to connect with you. Jonah, I know you from your tennis career. Blake, nice meeting you for the first time. And we're here to talk about your guys' company that you created, Meet Your Class, and your caffeinated water company, Swift. So let's talk about let's just start off before we start talking about the company. What is being an entrepreneur like today, and how do you balance starting a company, having a social life, and being in school? Who wants to go first?
I think Blake can speak to that a bit better than me.
Yeah, Blake? It's definitely been, I think, kind of like the internet or social media really portrays it as really grindy. You're just always working, and it's partly true. Like over the summer, we're doing 60, 70 hours a week on top of summer classes and all of that. But I think it's one of those things where, like, if you really want to make it work, like, you sacrifice sleep, a little bit of social, but I think it's generally important. At least for us, it's definitely hard as a student, but I'm on a gap semester right now, so it makes it a little easier for me. But yeah, it's definitely hard, at least in today's day and age.
What's one thing? I have a quick question, and Jonah, we'll get to you in 1 second. But what's one thing you learned, Blake, that you can't learn in a classroom?
I mean, I think like the coolest part, or the thing that like kind of learned from this whole process, is like you just need to start. I've had like ideas in the past. I think it was kind of my moment of realization. I always had this idea for an app, and then I was okay. Once I get to college, then I'll be able to learn the skills to do it. And I got to college, and then we started prepping for this app. I think Jonah knows the app I'm talking about. And then it came out and went viral on TikTok. So, and then like to add to that, we were talking with a VC for Meet Your Class. We kind of got led on, and then I learned that VC invested into that app. So I had this idea, and if I would have just started it a long time ago when I had the idea, it could have actually become something. And so that's kind of just the thing, just start.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Some people hold the idea to themselves, don't share with other people, so that it doesn't become a physical being, and then it's harder to take action. Not that you did that, but think community, I think a lot of people do. But I love it. Start and take action. Jonah, how about you? What's one thing you've learned about just kind of being an entrepreneur that you can't learn in school?
I would say there's kind of like two things. One, in school, things are like so structured. And when you're starting a company, you would hope it's like a new proprietary idea. So there's not necessarily like a formula book or like way to go about doing it. So kind of like Blake was saying, you kind of just have to like dive straight into it and learn on the job. So I think in school, it's like really important and outside to like equip yourself with skill sets, and then to like bear in mind that you're going to apply those in like ways you wouldn't have ever imagined. And then the other aspect is I think school kind of teaches you to perform like very well as like an individual, but it doesn't really teach you how like work on a team. And like Meet Your Class, this is like kind of occupy a ton of like our time, and we have like a team working behind us at this point. And I think it's really important to like understand that like really good ideas, you can't just keep them to yourself. It's all about bringing people together and capitalizing on each other's strengths and, minimizing each other's weaknesses.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Bringing people together and kind of learning on the job versus the kind of, pragmatic structure that sometimes school, provides you. Because when you're an entrepreneur, you got to kind of take all of that, put it in a pot, mix it up, and then really tap into your instincts and your gut. Blake, when I hear stories like what you shared, when I talk to, as a business coach, I work with people all over the world. I hear that a lot, and it's like, and it's just kind of listening to the gut and really going for it. But really tuning into your gut. So how do you guys listen to your gut and make decisions on gut when maybe it doesn't make sense? Like you're learning, A plus B equals C in a book for one of your classes or a test.
Yeah, for sure. I think like especially like kind of in the industry we are in, it's almost like we are like paving the way for it in a sense, just because it hasn't really, the idea of like kind of leveraging social media is kind of a little bit different. And so it's kind of allowed us to like, this is what we're doing. Like we're figuring it out as we're going. And so it's come a lot from gut instinct. We've pivoted. We've had the same end goal since day one, create a super centralized network of college students. But the way we are going to do that and the way we've done that and like our steps going forward have really relied on, hey, we are students. So like that's our edge. So how can we trust our gut and like what we would actually want to do to kind of get this to where we want it to be?
Yeah. And then I would imagine, and especially your generation is so open with feedback that you can get feedback, figure out how to digest it. And then, so Jonah, when you guys take that information, how are you pivoting? Right. Because I think a lot of times older generations have a hard time, pivoting. And I think the younger generations can teach us that, there's no shame in pivoting and figuring things out and taking real-time feedback. So talk a little on that, Joe.
I think anytime Blake and I have been like thrown into a situation where we're kind of like doing a new thing, we've been extremely open to getting feedback, not just from people who have more experience than us, from our peers, and then also from like the users of our product. And the way I personally view it is like, if you have a very good idea in your head, or the two of us have a very good idea, maybe there's some synergies, it can be very good. But at the end of the day, if you're able to get feedback from your users and listen to all the people around you, instead of the idea being like the brainchild of two people, you're almost like an aggregator of all of these ideas. So then it's like a product that hundreds of people came up with at the end of the day. So, when we launched our platform, it looked very different than it does today. And that's because as we've like studied the way that people navigate through our platform, as we've gotten feedback on like areas that people get confused on, we've really like evolved. And I think it's something also when you like launch your own platform or make your own product, it makes a ton of sense in your head because it's exactly how you would want it to go. But it doesn't necessarily mean that's going to work for everyone, or especially people of like different generations and different technology habits.
Yeah, I love everything that you guys are sharing, and just to comment on that, Jonah, success is not a straight line. And so how you start is typically never how you finish, but you gotta, Blake, like you said, you gotta start and then just kind of keep on listening and keep on moving and adapting. And you said something that I think is really profound too. We still have the same end goal, right? How we get there may change, but we still have the same goal. So I love it. All right, let's talk about your guys' companies. And so we got Swift, the caffeinated water, and we got Meet Your Class, which is meetyourclass.com. And it's basically a way to meet thousands of classmates and filter for friends. It's basically, I'll let you guys describe it. So kind of talk about the journey on how you got from one to the other and how they kind of, cross paths.
Yeah. I think I could probably get started if that's cool. Basically, we were running an Instagram community for the University of Michigan and the University of South Florida last year. So there are basically like these Instagram pages where students will come on and they'll send information to someone who's like managing the page. And then that person will then go ahead and manually upload the information. So the end product is like for the University of Michigan, there were like thousands of student bios. And then people were able to go on it to meet roommates and like find people before coming on campus. And we kind of recognized through running that page that we were getting tons of impressions. I think our University of Michigan page was reaching 200,000 users with 4 million impressions in a singular month. So we're like, this has the potential to be basically a massive advertising agency at the end of the day, which we thought would be very effective in being able to market the caffeinated water product, which I think it might be easier to kind of explain that whole endeavor after. But then how Meet Your Class really started as a company is we wanted to run way more than just these two communities. But because of like the manual process of managing them, we realistically cannot. So what we did was we created this web platform that automates the way the pages are managed. So now we're currently running pages at, I think, around 140 universities, and we have not spent a single cent on marketing, yet we have 25,000 users. And I think that's forecasted to reach around 300,000 users this year. So we're kind of leveraging these communities and we're using them as like a wedge to bring them into our platform. So every single year we should be getting hundreds of thousands of students onto our platform. And then we're trying to build products and services that keep them into the platform and into the community so we can, monetize that as well.
Yeah. Let's talk about,
Blake, is there anything you want to add? Or?
No, I was just going to hear you.
You want to? I mean, those are impressive numbers. I love everything you just shared. Congratulations to both you guys. I mean, how exciting to kind of, build what you built and forecast continually building it. But let's talk about community. That's a word that I think a lot of people are trying to figure out how to build communities within their social platforms, within their companies, kind of a through line of their culture. And so talk a little bit about how to build community, how to bring people in, but like you said, Jonah, monetize it, right? Because I think a lot of people, the first step is the community. The second step is how do I convert them to money? So can you guys talk about kind of what your path is for that?
Yeah, for sure. So the kind of nature of our, company is just to build really engaged communities in the sense that students, it's a different time now. Like maybe like 40 years ago, you didn't need to find anyone before coming to the university. But now with all the extra technology and all the social media, increased anxiety rates, it's almost the norm to come in with a roommate and like a group of friends. So that's kind of what we built our whole product around, is how can we, introduce these people to each other as effectively as possible. Just a year ago, people would have had to wait 2 months just to, be posted to an Instagram page and then find people. And to us, that just did not seem, quite frankly, fair at all. So with what we built, you can get posted maximum roughly 2 days of waiting. So it really expedites this process. But kind of on top of that, we can have, since all these users are already on this community, we can kind of we can build tools to help them find each other. So something that makes us a little different. There's obviously a bunch of wonderful and beautifully designed platforms for finding roommates, finding friends, and other social medias, but they kind of lack the user base. And since we have these communities that are engaged and very high approval ratings, they get filtered into our software offerings, which are a roommate finder. So if you're scrolling through 2,000 posts trying to find friends, that's very ineffective as well. So instead of trying to scroll, you can use the website, which is automatically linked up with all the posts that we are doing, and you can filter for extroverts, maybe people that are early birds that play tennis, if you want to find a workout buddy, and that just kind of adds to the value of the community that we are already building.
Yeah, love it. Joan, anything to add?
Yeah, I think Blake was touched on this pretty well. I really wanted to emphasize the fact that like he was mentioning, there are a lot of really great platforms that are centered around building communities, but the issue is that nowadays people don't want to download another app, and I think people are kind of sick of running around and downloading new things just for it to never come to fruition. So What we've been doing is leveraging the Instagram communities, so we inherently have all of those people on our platform, so then we can really maximize the utility.
Good. I love it. Well, I think it's great. You guys have built two great companies. Let's talk about you as business partners and how you interact. I think it's, for many people, having a business partner is really important. But one of the things that's also really important is communication. How how do you meet? How do you know what each other's unique abilities are? How do you work off of each other's strengths? Talk a little bit about your partnership and how that works.
Yeah. So we first met each other in the dorms freshman year. I was a roommate with his high school sort of best friend. Actually met them on the Instagram page for the past year. So, and he came, I think the initial interaction was, I had kind of this really like, just in high school, I had this like mug company. It wasn't anything too special. I was just designing 3D CAD models of mugs and things like that. And then kind of like off that, he kind of asked about that. And then kind of from there, we kind of realized like a lot of our strengths. I'm definitely more not as talkative. I'm more of, I might have a little bit of ADHD. I might need to get diagnosed for that. But I tend to be a little more creative and have a little more like thought. But then Jonah is much more, he's more of a businessman. He's had a lot of experience in his past with startups. So it's kind of, we definitely fill in each other's kind of weaknesses and strengths very well.
Yeah. Good. Jonah, any thoughts?
I think Blake touched on it pretty well. It's definitely just about patience and communication. It's a very long road. So definitely being aligned on like the long-term goals is very important.
Yeah. What do you think? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was also wondering if we could also touch on the caffeinated water products.
Yeah. Talk to it. Yeah.
Blake, Blake really came up with this idea. So if you
talk about it. Now, who couldn't use some caffeinated water?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a caffeine addict. I don't think that's hidden. Like in the dorm room, I had essentially a statue built out of caffeine beverages. Don't know if I want to admit that in a live audience, but
yeah,
it's out there now. And so we were kind of thinking like, hey, there's this caffeine. I don't know if it's really healthy for me to be drinking all these random chemicals, but I'm doing it anyways because I'm a student. And so we kind of, what can we put caffeine in that's just healthier essentially, and maybe easier to drink, or can have a lot more utility than just, an energy drink that I'm sipping on at, 2 a.m. So that was kind of like the initial idea. And after a while, we were like, hey, why don't we just put this in water?
I like it.
Yeah.
All right, good.
So there was there are companies that exist that put just caffeine in water, but most people have not heard of them. And I think the main reason is because their approach to the product. So basically, like the way we view it is caffeine is extremely bitter in nature. So your two approaches are either to block the bitter taste or to just dilute it in enough water where you don't really taste it. So that's what the competitors have like mainly done. So in order to get like your cup of coffee, like that dose of caffeine, you'll have to drink like a very, very large bottle of water, which we didn't think was overly practical. So we ended up getting in contact with a formulator, and we just finished formulation. This was just like a used sample bottle, but we just finished formulation. So we basically have water, 140 milligrams of caffeine in like a 16.9 fluid ounce bottle. And then we just have some natural flavors and electrolytes, 0 sugar, tastes completely like water, but you get a very large dose of caffeine. And now there's like a ton of advantages. A lot of people don't like the taste of coffee, so they add a ridiculous amount of sugar. It's also typically like not as like portable because it's not like a water bottle. And then the alternative is you might have like an energy drink. And, I was concerned seeing Blake drink like 300 milligrams of sugar like first thing in the morning. So that's kind of how we got to it. But I wanted to bring this up because the reason it tied back into Meeker class is based on our polling, and we were able to poll like over 700 people just through our communities last year. We were really under the impression that our target audience should be college students, because speaking to like my grandparents, for example, they've been drinking coffee the exact same way for the past 40 years. So it doesn't necessarily make sense for them to like change their habits.
Right.
But we think that college students really like are in a position where they're starting to drink caffeine more often. They're not too set in their habits. And now we have these Instagram communities where we have 300,000. We're going to have 300,000 users, but we're going to be reaching, I don't know the exact, maybe like tens of millions of people across the entire Instagram ecosystem. But all of that, since we own the advertising channels, we're able to basically blast the product in front of people as much as we want without it costing us any money.
I love it. It's great, guys. Anything to add, Blake?
No, I was just gonna say, I think like since it's in its base sort of product, I kind of like it just to add as a caffeine addict. Make mac and cheese with it, smoothies, or ramen even. That's kind of what I like doing it for too, just because I need to have caffeine in everything I'm consuming, I guess, nowadays.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, I think this is amazing. So a couple questions. Again, I love the hustle and the grit that you guys have and what you've done to take these ideas and build these communities and really understand and utilize social media and extract through software emails to keep growing your mailing list. I think it's great. All right, quick speed round. If you were to teach a class in college, what's one thing that you would teach?
I actually wrote about this in like all of my college essays, so
okay.
I think I can speak to it. I really like Black Mirror, and if you know the show on Netflix, it's basically about dystopian futures if like technology keeps advancing. So what I would teach a class on is I would look at past like technological advancements and then look at like the present day societal effects and like try like understand what like the world might look like without that. So like a bit of like science/technology, a bit of history, a bit of social science.
Yeah, good. I love it. Blake, how about you?
Not as cool. Probably just kind of leveraging like leveraging communities on social media. It's kind of my experience even before Meet Your Class. So probably that.
I love it. What's one of the best pieces of advice somebody's given you?
There's a lot.
Pick one.
I think one piece of advice that like I heard a while ago that's like helped me is just the importance of like being able to like define a goal and just go directly for that path. Because you can learn a lot along the way on the journey, but like sometimes just being able to like orient your mind and know what you want to get out of like a situation can be really helpful.
Good. I love it. Blake, how about you?
There's not really like an advice. There's this song by Logic called Last Call, and like his outro is just, it gets me going. I would say it's pretty motivational. Like, essentially you just have to sometimes focus on yourself, and you have to make those next steps. Like no matter what you like have, like if you don't have the time, you don't have the money, well you have to make it if you want to get to like your next step and where you want to be. So
I love it. I love it. How old are you guys?
19.
19. Think community, I'm 50, and my parents always raised me that you can always learn something from somebody older and somebody younger than you. I'm so glad they gave me that advice because I learned so much from people your age. I've been interviewing a couple people on blockchain, a lot on AI. I love technology. I had an internet company in 1995 that my brother and I sold, and it reminds me of kind of the time we are now. Nobody even understood what we were doing, but we had a blast. And think community, it's really, really important that whether you understand some of the stuff that we talked about today or even on other shows, but the Jonahs and the Blakes of the world are going to be changing our world. And so markets adjust slower than we think, but then change faster than we think. And so we've got to always be staying in front. Guys, as a business coach, I work with people who are successful and stuck all over the world. I love it. And what I love about this podcast is I get to talk to people like you who can also get people unstuck. You guys shared a ton of great stuff, but I want to extract one thing, which I think is a core fundamental thing that keeps people stuck and frozen, which is they don't get started. And Blake, you shared it earlier in the talk. So think community, if you have an idea, write it down, keep an idea journal, talk to somebody about it, build it, and just get started. I loved it. Guys, I really appreciate you guys taking time. I'm excited to watch your careers over the decades, watch these two companies, other things that you guys create and sprout. It's going to be great. Tell everybody where they can learn about each of the companies and connect with you.
Yeah, for sure. So meetyourclass.com is obviously where Meet Your Class is. We have a LinkedIn. For Swift, nothing really super official yet. So you'll just have to follow our LinkedIns or probably Meet
You
Your
can
Class.
probably just reach out to one of our personal emails too. So like Blake, I believe is BMISCH@umich.edu, and mine is JMLiss@umich.edu. So we'll be pretty responsive to anything into either of those inboxes as well.
Great. All right, guys, thank you. And if anybody wants to talk to me, they can reach me at jondwoskin.com. Jonah, Liss, Blake, Mischley, co-founders of Swiftwater and meetyourclass.com. Guys, this was great. I loved it, and I learned a ton. And congratulations on everything. And if you ever need anything, feel free to reach out. And looking forward to watching your guys' biz. All right, thank community. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks. I appreciate you both.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Have a good one.